Just me and liquid unalive, since you can't say words. We live in a society where you can't say certain words on the interwebs anymore. Hell, I just got back from a small town. There was a yard sale, and the dude had a bunch of ammo, and so I was telling a friend of mine about it, and I used text to speech. I said they have a crap load of ammo, no cursing, and it censored that. It censored that. Isn't that strange? Anyways, I'm here at the Loves. You guys want to see? Check it out. What if we reverse this? There's proof. I'm at the Loves. Look, there's the logo. Ooh. Yeah, every now and then I get homesick, and I come out to the Loves. But anyways, no, I was traveling, so I went down to a small town nearby. A friend of mine has a pawn shop, and we did the coolest thing. It was great. He's an old friend of mine. I've known him for 30 plus years. We've both been musicians in the same scene for a long time. And we did this thing where we had a conversation that had nothing to do with politics, religion, state of the world, any of that. It was a friendly conversation about guitars. We did talk about the nature of how well or how slow his business is doing. You know, I gave him one of the Snorelord guitar picks, you know, because he's a guitar player, real good guitar player too. And that's why I'm here at this Loves, because this Loves is like halfway there. So I was stopping by as I'm coming back into Springfield. But it was refreshing to have a conversation that wasn't filled with fear, that wasn't filled with anxiety, that wasn't filled with what ifs, that wasn't filled with all these different things that are the conversations on the internet. And I came up with a parable because I drove 30 miles with no radio, no Spotify, no, podcast or anything. And I came up with this parable about what we're going through right now, because everybody's like, what are your thoughts on this? And what are your thoughts on that? And I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon to talk about the Charlie Kirk thing and what happened to the Ukrainian woman, and all that stuff, because there's enough people out there that are saying very smart things about it, okay? And it's appalling that people are celebrating the death, but here's the deal with my parable, all right? You guys, when you get all natural peanut butter, bear with me, you're like, what? Huh? Think about all natural peanut butter, okay? When you get it in the jar, it's separated, right? The oil's on top about that thick, and then the bottom's the peanuts, depending on what brand you buy, right? And it's kind of a pain in the butt to stir, right? So the smart thing to do, and I learned this from my beautiful, loving wife, is you put it in a bowl, and then you mix it up, and then you put it back in the jar, okay? Now, here's where the parable comes in. Think about this. You have two ingredients, oil and the peanut paste or whatever it is, right? So essentially you got two sides, the oil side and the paste side. And you want to manipulate this product. Either if you're a bread eater, then you're going to put it on bread. You might give it to your dog. You might put it on celery, whatever. But in order to manipulate it and get the best that you can get from that product, you have to mix it, right? So you throw all the ingredients in a bowl, right? All two ingredients. Remember, you got one side and another side, right? The oily side that's slick and looks clean but really aren't. And then you've got the other side that's obviously doesn't budge, hard to move, very pasty, in your face, blunt kind of thing, right? Okay? Do you get what I'm laying down here? In order to manipulate this oily paste mess that you've got, you have to stir it. You have to remove it from the jar, and you have to stir it. And what that does is that requires the ingredients to come together. And now you can manipulate those ingredients. Now you can put that peanut butter on your bread. You can put that peanut butter on your celery, you know. You can manipulate the peanut butter because you've created something new. So if you think about it, you have oil that's always going to be oil, and you got the paste that's always going to be paste. But in order to manipulate the whole jar, you have to mix it. You have to stir it up. You have to stir it up so you can get it the consistency that you want and manipulate it. So the true enemy of all these sides that are arguing is not the oil, kind of is the paste, right? But the one who stirs it, the one who's got the knife out, the one who's got the spoons out. And everybody is falling for it. If you open Facebook or TikTok or YouTube and you get enraged, granted, there are many things to be angry about. However, what are you going to do about it? Is it ruining your life now, right? You see, a lot of people that are considered fence sitters or whatever, they're actually just being quiet. They're actually observing. They're actually observing the craziness, because it takes a tragedy that we've witnessed in the last few days to really bring out either the best in people or the worst in people, right? And if you are not in control of your emotions, good or bad, you can be manipulated. That's the parable of the peanut butter. And so those are my thoughts. Because all these people getting fired for speaking out, you know, of them liking somebody's death, they're getting fired now. Which, in some people's eyes, that's good justice. But in other people's eyes, you might look at that and like, well, if a person is out there not in control of their emotions enough that they're going to get on TikTok and praise somebody's death and get canceled and shut down for it, that could easily happen to anybody. Anybody, right? If the status quo does not like a certain religion or a certain look or a certain mindset, how easy would it be to shut that down? That's what you should really be looking at. There are many things wrong with this world, and the internet adds fuel to the fire of what the enemy does through sin. In other words, ego, pride, lust, all are fueled times 1,000,000 on the internet. Like, look at the P word, right? back in the day, 30, 40 years ago, you had to stumble upon somebody's magazines that fell on the ground, or, your weird uncle's video collection that he kept hidden in a closet. And now you can practically open Instagram and get the P-word stuff, right? It's so easily accessible. So what happened? That element of humanity was still there back in the day. I mean, look up the old Stag films, right? But now the internet, it's kind of like what meth is to cocaine, or what cocaine is to the cocoa plant, right? It's a highly refined, bastardized, accelerated substance that was not meant for human consumption. And so 90% of the stuff that you're seeing online, 30, 40 years ago, you didn't get that kind of information. They said that, I was reading a book, I forget which book it was. It said that, I think it was a human nature book. It said that if you were to time travel a person from the 1800s to today, their brains would almost explode, because they're getting all this information at once that they're not meant to handle. And so think about all of our kids, and and how anxiety is through the roof with adults, including adults my age, right? Why is that? Because I don't think our brains are supposed to process that. The day that Charlie Kirk was shot, the first thing I did was go to Facebook, and there was a video of it happening, and it was pretty graphic. Now, for me, it wasn't as bad to see that because of the things that I've seen. But take your 15-year-old kid that's on Facebook to be with their friends. They saw that. Are their brains going to process that? And so when maybe because of the video games that they play, that they probably could. And it may not look real, but it is real. But back to the parable of the peanut butter, you got to look who's stirring the pot. When the Israel-Iran thing was going on, both sides were putting out Instagram, Facebook Reels, and YouTube Shorts and TikToks of these so-called victories. It was propaganda to show that they're winning. We're not backing down. We're kicking butt and taking names. Here's proof, and it's an AI generated thing, or it's a video from 2013 of a factory exploding that had nothing to do with anything. But oh, look what we did. This was their blah 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 center, and we did this and that and the other. It's all manipulation, because they know that people are going to get emotional about it, and emotional people are easy to manipulate. I mean, think about the products you buy. Like look at this product, Liquid Death. Oh, death metal. I'm gonna drink. It's sparkling water. It's the same product that's in Perrier, but what's cooler to drink? What's cooler to say? I'm drinking Liquid Death, so that fits my emotional needs to be cool, to be the long-haired metalhead guy drinking Liquid Death. Oh, not Perrier, I mean, all the retro stuff. There's AI videos going around about, showing these kids in the 1980s going, hey, we missed you. We heard in 2025, you don't do this, you don't do that, da 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 da. We come in when the street lights come on, blah, blah, blah. And what that's doing is that it's appealing to the retro aspects of our minds that wish for a simpler, easier time. Well, what made that time simpler and easier? Well, we didn't have the internet to know all the darkness that man can cause. That's why. That's why you're like, oh man, I wish it was 1986 again. Because back then junk food wasn't bad for you, and you didn't have cell phones, and you rode your bike, and you didn't have to worry about getting robbed or mugged or doing meth, and you had all, da 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 da. It strikes an emotion. Star Trek was interesting to me. The Next Generation, they had the holodecks. Think about if those holodecks existed today, how many people would be using them to avoid reality? Right? It's the P word, peanut butter. It rhymes with corn, that band from Bakersfield, California. Anyways, the that's how they, like Christmas, like we're almost to Christmas time, right? You're starting to see the pumpkin spice crap. You're starting to see the Halloween stuff. You're starting to see the fall stuff. And what does that do? That invokes memories of, it's retro. It invokes memories of when you were a kid, of when times were innocent. And so, you get into like the skulls and the Halloween stuff, and then the Christmas time, you got the Coca-Cola polar bears, that come out, and and it reminds you of something that you did as a kid, and the time you went to your grandmother's and you got the greatest gift in the world, and you ate the fudge and all that stuff, right? That's a selling point. Or they use the "you deserve this." Like I sit here like, I drove 20 miles, I deserve this liquid water stuff, right? It's a play on emotions. Get what you deserve. Get what you want. Not get what you need. We don't care about that. We're gonna give you what you want. And what you want is a dopamine release to get away from reality. That's what you want. Because, if you go on Facebook and you look at all the stuff going on in the world today, oh man, that's a tough reality pill to swallow. So don't worry about that. Just smoke some weed, have a 6-pack, but not Budweiser because they did this, it gets ridiculous, right? Look at Cracker Barrel. Cracker Barrel, all right, so let's look at the controversy with Cracker Barrel. They made this huge mess that they're changing their logo, and everybody jumped on them. And then like, oh, sorry, we screwed up, we changed it back. Do you know what that did? That plummeted the stock of Cracker Barrel, where everybody could buy it cheap, and then it went back up when they made the announcement that they were going back to normal. That's manipulation. That's market manipulation. That should be illegal, right? Same thing with Budweiser. They completely obliterated their original fan base, and then when they saw the repercussions, they tried to change it back. For them, it might have been too late. But regardless, people were buying beer pennies on the dollar because they couldn't sell it. Yay, consumer, right? I have a family member, a distant family member, that has dealt with anxiety all their lives. Lives on the East Coast. And she's on Facebook right now screaming at the top of her lungs for something that she has no control over. You can't control people's thoughts. Look, here's the deal. Let's say that you're still old school in the truck, right? Let's say you're a truck driver watching this. And you go to the counter at the TA. Do they still have those? You go to the counter, you have your meal, and the driver sits next to you, and he goes, "So, what do you think about X political blah, 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 blah? Or what do you think of 2A? Or what do you think of this? Or what do you think of that?" Here's what I would say. I would say, well, I can sit here and agree with you vehemently, and we'll bond falsely, and we'll become an echo chamber that doesn't really solve anything, or we'll have opposing views and we'll never see eye to eye and we'll end up hating each other. So either way, the conversation is pointless. I'm going to enjoy my meal. There's going to be a time where there's going to be a call of action. And the ones that keep their emotions in check and can see through the manipulation, they're the ones that are going to survive. I even drink out of a metal can, that's right. So those are my thoughts on the whole thing. Because what I'm seeing is nothing's getting solved online, and people are using the information to manipulate your emotions. Oh, the shooter was this, or the shooter was that, or, you know, the person did this, or the person did that, and, you know, and you find out that the stories are kind of false, right? That's called propaganda. You have to check, and I've been guilty of it. I stopped sharing things like that because I didn't know if I was talking out of my butt or not. So I started looking at the bigger picture. So if the bigger picture is manipulation, what is that for? Well, maybe if I was a bug exterminator, okay? Let's pretend I'm a bug exterminator, right? Business is kind of slow because I'm lame, right? So what do? I sneak into your house and I release about 3,000 roaches. Maybe not that high, but I release some bugs, right? And then the next day, hey, do you have a roach problem? And the person goes, well, as a matter of fact, I do. Huh. You're a godsend that you showed up just in time to save me from these bugs that have gotten into my house. That person created, like, if I was to do that, I created the problem so I can create the solution. Well, we're going to have to fumigate this whole house. We're going to have to put one of those big tents over the house, man, because your infestation is pretty bad. And so we're going to have to go to an extreme to get rid of these roaches, right? You see, if we count on government, which is the theater of, which politics is the theater of government, if we count on them to be our saviors, they might do that, but it's not going to be in the way in our favor. Keep that in mind, right? And so my solution is, if you have an important job, don't sit there and praise the death of somebody online. But see, that's the beauty of this, right? 30 years ago, that had to be told in a private conversation, right? But nowadays, a tragedy like what's happened in the last week, what it does is it brings out the worst. Like, it brings it out in the open. It brings out the worst aspects of humanity out in the open, which is good. It's a blessing. You know why? Because now you know what you're facing. Now there's no beating around the bush. Now you know your enemy. Now you know your opponent. If a person is reveling in someone's death and that doesn't appeal to you, now you know their true intentions. So now you can separate yourself from that person. So I get on Facebook and I see all the people shouting at the top of their lungs on their soapboxes, and I know exactly where their heart's at because they can't keep their mouth shut. Now, there is such a thing called righteous anger, and I agree with that in some cases, but the righteous anger has to have thought, it has to have strategy, it has to have common sense to be effective. Because, like, for example, if there's a burning building, you don't just see firefighters just jump in, right? Now, if there's someone screaming at the window, they might then, but for the most part, when they show up at a fire, they're like, okay, right away they're strategizing, they're keeping calm, they're not freaking out, running around with their helmets off and like, what do we do, and they're not letting their emotions get to them, and they're like, okay, if we start over here, we can submit the fire here, and you know, it's like that, right? If they didn't have a calm, cool, collected aspect of themselves, they wouldn't be good firefighters. Same thing with the EMS. If an ambulance shows up at a horrible traffic accident and they're freaking, oh my gosh, this is horrible, there's body parts everywhere, oh my gosh, and they're running around like a chicken with its head cut off, that's not going to be a very good EMS person. You can't rely on that person to keep their head on their shoulders to help when it comes time to help. And that's the important part. You have to keep your head on your shoulders so you can be effective when it's time to be effective. Simple as that. Simple but not easy. What's up, Wilbur? So I kind of wanted to spend some time, so I stopped at this Love's, listening to the purr of diesel engines, and I thought I would go live about all this. And it'd be easier to read the comments on my other phone. Alright, let's see. Did I even get a notification? Yes, I did. Oh, turn it down. You don't need no echo. Welcome to Love's. Welcome to Love's! Desert Okie Pam, good morning. Mrs. A in the house. Gary Cook, hello. Welcome back home, Cheesecake. Your hairline is starting to walk away from you. Good. See, here's the thing, Dorito Man. I'm gonna be that bald guy with the 3-hair ponytail in the back. That's gonna be me with the beard. Oh man. Let's see, LBC, do some English proficiency testing at the truck stop. There will be a bunch of people that fail. My name is Nobody, good morning. Hippie, that's an insult. Ghana, cheap freight hauler, what's up, good morning. Or store the jar upside down and oil will rise to the bottom, and then after you use it, store it in the refrigerator to slow down your separation. That's a good idea. Will of the Woods, what's up? Flatbed trucker, hello. Give me fuel, give me fire, give me much desire. I'm confused. Is the P word peanut butter? Double tap screen to leave a like. Very good. Snorelord even drinks out of a metal can. That's true. I dream of a 6-pack. Abs, that is. That's an oxymoron. You're eating at TA. You will definitely not enjoy your meal. That's funny. That is an episode of Three Stooges. You're missing the Show Me Air show. It's lit. My dad works in Nintendo. Good. Excellent. You're probably rich then. Good to see you, Snorelord. Will Burner. Purring diesel engines. Yeah, purring diesel engines. But anyways, that's where I'm at on all of it. Those are my thoughts, and that's all I'm going to say about it. Now, I've got another topic to talk about. In the trucking YouTube world, There's just a lot of people not telling the truth. And I'm going to address that on the big channel, because I'm kind of fed up with it. You know, in some of the situations I'm in, I know more than one side of the story. And so when I see somebody get on YouTube that people follow and claim that they get their advice from him, I have a problem with that, because this industry is struggling. The trucking industry is struggling. And you've got the costs of operation, you've got the DOT regulations, you've got the economic conditions, you've got all these struggles. You know, we're fighting AI, soon to be fighting robot truckers, and the industry preys on the weak. You become a servant to the carrier when you rely on them for everything. And this particular YouTuber said he had to be at a carrier that is willing to pay his repair bills when he can't afford them. That is a great way to be in debt for the rest of your life. That is a great way to be miserable. That's a great way to put your family into poverty. Well, hon, I would have brought home $3,000 this week, but since I couldn't afford my turbo repair, the company paid for it, so I'm good. I'm still running, but you know, now I owe them, instead of $150,000, now I owe them $200,000, because that's just interest and blah 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 blah. And carriers love to be in that position. But I'm going to go into more depth about that on the other channel, because I try to keep some of the trucking stuff off this one. Currently using diesel to turn tree stumps into mulch. Couldn't you do the same thing with water? Like soak it with water so it gets soft, and then take an axe to it? I don't know. How does diesel make it worse? Softer. Without, you know. I don't know. That's a weird thing. Couldn't that blur the line between employee and contractor? It does. Look. This particular YouTuber said that he was at a big carrier paying 70% of line haul, and he was dispatched on their freight. Now, if I get a contract with Procter & Gamble, and I can go out and buy 5 trucks, yeah, I'm putting up the cash up front, but if I can convince 5 drivers to pay these bills so they'd feel like owner-operators, but yet they're still doing my freight, they're still dispatched by me, you know, with no choice in the matter. Man, that's a good scam, right? If I can get people to pay the truck and trailer and the insurance, then where I don't have to pay that, but I still get my freight moved with my contract with Procter & Gamble. That's stellar. That's a great idea. Think of how much money I save a year. Millions, right? Whereas, you know, my dispatch now is, well, helping owner-operators try to be the best that they can be. And they have choices. They can refuse. I give them options. I give them strategies. I'm not just like, here's my freight that I need you to move. Here you go. Sucks to be you. diesel powers the stump grinder. Oh. Oh. Well, see, that's funny. That's funny. You guys want to see something? So let's get away from the crap, right? Look what I got. Oh, look what I got. I got a crate power block. Check it out. This is a guitar thing, right? So this handheld thing right here is 150 watts. It'll power not one but two 412s. Now, I did not pay that price. I traded one of my guitars for it. This thing is pretty powerful. And it looks like it sat on a shelf for, like, it's basically in new condition. So I'm looking forward to, basically what I needed was an extra amp, because musically I've started a project. And the other guitar player, he doesn't have something loud enough to keep up with the drum set. And I wouldn't mind having an extra amp. It's always good to have an extra amp. And so I got that. But I didn't pay any money for it. I traded it straight across, which was kind of a nice surprise. Tomorrow starts Driver Appreciation Week. Do I get a like, truck, and a hat and mug? That's a conversation for you and Jeff. Make 30% on the freight, then charge 50% interest on the truck and pad the insurance premiums. Right. So, yeah, so that's what I went out and drove 30 miles to get. So, anyways, I'm gonna get back to the house. I'm sure the dog's annoying everybody at the house. If you guys haven't watched it, I put up a video of me playing with the dog. Neo is doing very well. A little bit of adjustment. He's in his Velociraptor stage. You know, there's a meme where it shows 4 to 6 weeks. It shows a little cute blue heeler puppy, and then it shows a Velociraptor for 6 weeks to 36 months, and then the full-size dog. It's kind of funny, but it's true. He's a little Velociraptor. So, but I gotta go. So I got stuff to do at the house. Put the cap back on your metal can. Okay. Anyways, I'm out of here. Thanks for putting up with me and listening to me. I'll keep this one public. I think it went very well, because that's what my ego tells me. Ego. Strength for today. Oh, let's see. Training with cheese cubes. Why was that hidden? That's funny. Anyways, strength for today, over tomorrow. Peace.